Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great and welcome to this new video. A special video that I'm pre-recording Saturday the 9th of August, so I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this, but I do hope the fundamentals have stayed relatively the same, because in this video we will talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum and Ripple. Alright, and I will give you my thoughts on all the three of them. At this point of time, my thoughts on them are bullish, given the current fundamentals. Now, hopefully the fundamentals don't change, but at this point of time, we see great strength both in the technicals, but also the fundamentals department. And there's great strength in the general financial world as well. Last week, we received news about 401ks in the United States being opened up for investments in crypto. And we've just had great momentum, and I expect that to continue over the course of 2025. So maybe at this point of time, we're seeing a bit of a pullback. That's fine. I mean, in my opinion, Bitcoin can pull back all the way to 111,000 and we're still fine. Ethereum can pull back all the way to 3,000 and we're still fine long term. So that should not change my thoughts. But we're going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, which in my opinion are the main three coins right now. I will tell you some of my thoughts I have on those, which, like I said, at this point of time are quite, positive, bullish. Even if we see a significant price decline, for if that happens before I make this video, but that's also why the prices are a little bit different. And then at the end, I'll tell you which I think is best to buy. All right, so let's get right into it. So let's start off with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a couple of things going for it. First of all, there are some Bitcoin treasuries, some major treasuries such as MicroStrategy, of course, which is still raising a lot of money. And they're still buying Bitcoin. I mean, they've toned down their buys a little bit, but still they've raised a lot of money. There's still billions left to buy Bitcoin with. That's great demand, so that's going to help the price as well. And obviously Bitcoin, like when we're talking about image, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this with XRP and Ethereum as well, Bitcoin by far has the best image when it comes to retail investors and institutions. All right, Bitcoin is seen as the cryptocurrency, as the most stable one, and that's all true. All right, so that is something that works very much that very much is good for Bitcoin long term. That's also why we've seen a massive Bitcoin dominant rally over the course of the last couple of years. So that definitely works in the favor of Bitcoin compared to Ethereum and XRP. But we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, right? Because image is not everything, and image can change, and that is potentially something we're seeing right now, which I think is very interesting. Outside of that, Bitcoin has seen some amazing ETF inflows, which we'll look at this with Ethereum as well. But ETF inflows are great, right? Because if you take a look at this, and you take a look at all the inflows and all the outflows, what we have seen so far, and I have no reason to believe that that's going to change, is that inflows are tougher to become outflows than the inflows in general to get into Bitcoin. All right, so that means that there's more demand than supply in this case. With ETFs specifically, that's again demand that's going to drive the prices up. And we're seeing this right now with Bitcoin. We're seeing the same with Ethereum, but with Ethereum, it's newer, it's less proven, and Ripple doesn't even have an ETF yet, right? What more do we have? Yeah, and then we've had, I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this video, but last week we had the news that 401ks would be allowed and pension funds was allowed earlier to invest in cryptocurrencies. And because of all the things we've named before, ETF inflows, price performance, dominance, image, it's very likely that most of that money is going to flow into Bitcoin. Now, that money is going to do less with the price than with Ethereum of XRP, of course, but still that does matter. That is more demand coming into Bitcoin, which is great for the price. So those are kind of the arguments for Bitcoin, right? Now, when we're going on to Ethereum, which, like I said, I'm not sure when I'm uploading this video, but Ethereum at this point of time is doing quite well. And one of the things we are seeing, by the way, this is the 401ks. One of the things that we're seeing right now is that more and more companies are also acquiring Ethereum as a treasury strategy. All right, so Bitcoin is no longer the only crypto that's being bought up by institutions, or should I say corporates, right? So there's a lot of demand right now coming from these companies for Ethereum. And we're seeing some sort of an arms race in buying the most Ethereum. So, and this is something I do expect to hold at least for the next couple of months, most likely for the next year, which is very bullish, right? We mainly have Sharplink Gaming and Bitmine Immersion Technologies, and also there's a different company as well. Oh no, it's Sharplink Gaming and Bitmine Immersion Technologies that are trying to buy the most Ethereum and becoming the MicroStrategy of Ethereum. This is massively bullish on the short term, right? Because this drives hundreds of millions of dollars into Ethereum. And then, like I said, we're also seeing some new great inflows coming into the Ethereum ETF, right? If you take a look at this, hasn't always been great, but if you take a look at this, you can see most recently we've seen some massive inflows for Ethereum, and that seems to be continuing into August as well. If this continues the way it has developed for Bitcoin, this is so much demand and this is so much Ethereum being bought up that's inevitably going to raise up the prices of Ethereum over the next year, right? So that is something new with Ethereum, but since it's new for Ethereum right now, and if it actually continues the way it did with Bitcoin, that's massive demand that's going to drive Ethereum. And then outside of that, when you actually take a look at Ethereum, you can see that the network is growing. Stable coins are doing great. Those are mainly based on Ethereum. The TVL, so the growth, the size of the network is growing for Ethereum. So fundamentally, like for Ethereum, you can actually make a better case of use cases than for Bitcoin, which can also help again with that image. So those are the main things that kind of go for Ethereum at this point of time. It's very hyped right now. So you might think that my answer is Ethereum, but think again. We'll see. And the last coin, Ripple, XRP. Now, Ripple itself, look, one of the things that's not so great about Ripple is that if you compare it to Ethereum, but also to a lesser extent to Bitcoin, the network that Ripple has is not amazing. The XRP ledger has about $88 million locked up. When we talk about Ethereum has about $90 billion, right? So the network of Ripple is not its strength. However, it has some major catalysts, all right? We have a Ripple ETF coming, most likely. And the Ripple ETF is most likely going to be better in terms of the launch than Bitcoin and Ethereum. Because what we had with Bitcoin and Ethereum was that there was a huge supply overhang when it actually launched, coming from grayscale trusts. And XRP doesn't have that, all right? So what you saw with Ethereum and Bitcoin, when the ETF actually launched, because those trusts were converted into ETF holdings, there was massive selling pressure coming from institutions. With Ripple, that's not going to be the case. So that's a massive catalyst. Then outside of that, when we talk about market cap, Ripple is at less than 50% of the market cap of Ethereum. So you would automatically say there's more risk reward. And personally, which I think adds to that point and actually makes it a stronger point, Ripple is actually historically, especially the last couple of months, incredibly stable. Ripple did not break down after the 1st of December. Guess which cryptos did? All other ones, right? So that's great to see. There's stability, which reduces the risk, and there's catalysts, and there's money flowing in potentially later from institutions that's going to drive demand and which can set a better reward. So my final answer right now, when we talk about which is the best right now, I would say for the short term to medium term, it's Ethereum. I think Ethereum already is outperforming Bitcoin at this point of time. If you take a look at ETH BTC, and even though there may be pullbacks, I expect this to continue. But afterwards, I think it's going to be XRP when we're talking about medium to long term. So those are my thoughts right now. Just in general, some interesting things that you know are driving up the prices, and that you should keep your eyes on as well for these three major crypto coins right now. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's valuable for all of you that are interested in these coins and potential long-term accumulation. Let me know down in the comments, but that's a video for now. Thank you for watching. Have a great week and bye.